We are now live streaming, and thank you everyone who's here joining us tonight. Welcome to A+ Schools National Attendance Awareness Month Facebook Live event. So happy to have you here with us. I'm also so happy to be joined tonight by Danielle Gill, the Community Schools Site Manager at Pittsburgh Arlington, and Emily Cunningham of Everyday Labs. This month, we've been sharing out information about what you can do to help get your child to school every day, what our communities can do, and we're just really happy to have you here. I'm going to do a short, brief introduction, and then I'm going to ask our experts that are here with us tonight a couple questions, and hopefully you learned something tonight. Please, if you have questions, throw them in the chat and let us know, what you'd like to learn more about. All right, that view is not the view we want, so we're going to go to the gallery view. Okay. So tonight you're gonna learn a little bit more about how we're getting kids to school in Pittsburgh, in one Pittsburgh neighborhood, with Ms. Gill, and then you're gonna learn a little bit more about how we're helping inform families district-wide from Ms. Cunningham, and a little bit more about how Everyday Labs is doing this work kind of across the nation. What are we talking about? We National Attendance Awareness Month. Like, what's the topic? So attendance, right? Okay, getting to school every day. We know that if you're not there, you don't learn, right? That seems like a simple lesson. But we know when kids miss 10% or more of the days of school, so that's what we're calling chronic absence, that students don't do as well. They don't learn to read as well. They don't pass tests. They typically are less likely to graduate, right? They have a lot of negative consequences. But we also know shaming and blaming families or schools for why kids aren't coming isn't going to solve the problem, right? And so at A+ Schools, we're taking an approach of how do we support families to get every child in every school every day. And so when we think about where things are today, we know that as of today in Pittsburgh Public Schools, I just looked up the data, 23% of our students are chronically absent so far this year. That means they've missed 2 days, or they missed more than 2 days of school, right? So they missed 3 days of school or more in this first month. Again, kids have been sick. Something could happen, right? We know that, but our goal really is how can we encourage your families, work with our communities to make sure kids get there at least 95%. And we know that 95% number is kind of magical because we see huge drop-offs after that. So if you miss about 10 days, you start to see declines in academic performance, and that goes even further if you're fully chronically absent, right? Last year, we saw that 37%, or a little under 7,000 students, were chronically absent in Pittsburgh Public Schools. Now, this still not great, but it's a big improvement over the prior year, 21-22, where over 8,000 students were chronically absent. We're making progress, and it's only because of the great work that our two guests and many others are doing. So I want to dive in. Ms. Gill, thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you for the work you do at Pittsburgh Arlington. Can I ask you a little bit, how is this year going, and more pointedly, what's the school been doing to try and address chronic absence and getting kids to school every day?
Sure. First, I would like to thank you so much for having me here tonight. And I truly appreciate it. And I'm very honored to represent Pittsburgh Arlington. So what we've been doing is we've been working with local stakeholders and getting children to school. So at the beginning of last school year, Arlen's absenteeism committee came together to work on strategies to find solutions for how we could increase the attendance of our students. One main barrier was the long distances that our students had to travel to schools, and some areas were not easily walkable. So a special thanks goes out to Ms. Harriet Jackson from Safe Routes to School and Mayor Ed Gainey, who has led the project to correct many areas to make our sidewalks safer and accessible for our students. And today we have beautiful sidewalks leading up to our school. The students aren't walking in the streets or walking in muddy areas. They are coming to school safely and walking safely. In addition to that, we are partnering with Miss Andrea Matthews of the Brashear Association. Last year, we piloted a program called the Adopt a Nana Transportation Program with the help of A+ Schools, the PNC Foundation, and some additional anonymous funders. They supplied Brashear with 2 9-passenger vans. We served last year 30 to 35 students, and this year we are currently serving 40 students. This has contributed to the increase of attendance and reducing tardiness. The intergenerational program assigns a Nana to a family, and the Nana gives their family a warm good morning phone call to let the families know that the van is on the way, and they will pick up their child shortly. The Nanas build strong relationships with the families throughout the year, and there has been some exceptional cases where there were some students who have been injured and needed supplemental transportation to make it to school last year and including this year. We actually had a student who was injured and had not come to school, but once we had the vans up and rolling, this student was coming to school every day. So we feel that that was a big win. We are just excited that we are able to serve those students and these families with this additional support.
That's great. Can you talk a little bit more about sort of how teachers and other staff at the school are working to engage families around this issue, and what kind of activities have been happening within the school to make sure students feel welcome and belong?
Absolutely. So our teachers are always at all of our school events, talking to families, creating those relationships, as well as talking about different initiatives that we are having for students who are coming to school every day. We have some ideas this year where we would like to invite families with their students, not just only celebrate the students, but it's the parents that are getting their children out each day. We don't know what our families are going through every morning. We have parents that are working, parents that have a lot of obligations, and to get their student out the door, their child out the door, it takes a lot of effort sometimes. And so we want to celebrate those parents too with our attendance and our attendance awards. So we would like to host a quarterly pizza party for our families who bring their students to school and make sure that they are here every day. You see our teachers outside greeting our students every day, and at the end of the day they're outside speaking with parents consistently, and it's truly crucial to have those relationships and engage everyone so that all of our families feel welcome coming here at Pittsburgh Arlington.
That's fantastic. I also wonder if you would talk a little bit about some of the things that maybe as a community school you're doing that might be different from a regular school. I'm thinking about the barbershop that's right in your office, right behind you, the laundry, and some of the other resources that last year we were able to kind of partner with some law firms to get you. What's that been like, and what does it mean to be a community school trying to do this work, addressing some of the needs that the families that you work with have?
Absolutely. Yes, we do have a barbershop. And how exciting is that? In our community schools room, we have Mr. Brooks, our security officer. He comes into this room and he cuts hair we have children from pre-K all the way up to 8th grade. And as long as a child signs up, takes home a permission form and they bring it back, they can sit here in this room and get a haircut. And not only is it just a haircut, Mr. Brooks talks to our students, makes them feel important, valued, gives them great advice. And, just as you probably would typically do at a barbershop, I've never been, but I've heard stories. But, we want our children to feel confident coming to school every day. And something just as simple as you may feel as a haircut it has a tremendous positive effect. And not only is it helping our students, but it also helps cross any type of financial barriers for our family as well, or families that we serve as well. So we were very excited to receive the amazing donations to our barbershops from the funders. And we've had several haircuts already this year.
Talk to me a little bit. I mean, in terms of the community that Pittsburgh Arlington sits in, I'm not sure if all of the folks that are on our audience might know. You kind of talk a little bit more about some of the assets that are in the community, but then also maybe some of the challenges that our students and families are facing that live in the hilltop neighborhoods that Arlington serves.
There are many assets in this community and surrounding this community. We have Hilltop Urban Farm just across the street from the school, where our students are able to go over and garden and talk about how things grow. We have the Brashear Association that offers not only just a van service, but they have an after-school program and also a before-school program. Also, Lighthouse, we have an after-school program within them. We have students going down to the South Side for Big Brothers and Big Sisters. We have Tech 25 nearby as well that comes to a lot of our events that we have and supply a DJ, which is very, I really love this program. The DJ that comes to us graduated from Carrick and they were in that program. So a lot of people within the community come together to help our students to make sure that they feel empowered, get what they need. And it truly does take a village and it truly does take teamwork. And I'm so grateful to all of our partners, Adagio Health, RIF, Alcosan, the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts of America. They come to our school, bring awesome programming. They're always willing to help. We also had our local zone donate gloves to our school as well. And then we've gotten coats donated to our school. And these are items that help our students get to school comfortably and warmly. We needed coats, we needed gloves, hats, boots, to make sure that for those who are walking, those students who are walking are getting those needed items that are essential. So we are very grateful for all of our community partners, all of our stakeholders being involved in helping our students get what they need to be successful.
That's great. That's great. I'm gonna switch over to Emily here, but Danielle, feel free to jump back in any way, and we'll look back. Emily Cunningham, you are the Director of District Partnerships at Everyday Labs. So before we even jump in, I know what Everyday Labs is, but maybe the folks in our audience don't know what Everyday Labs is. What's Everyday Labs, Emily?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me, and I'm excited to be talking about this, especially in September, when we're really focused on attendance. So Everyday Labs is an organization that supports school districts with attendance and family communication. It started out of research at Harvard, where the focus was really, how do we effectively share information about student absences to encourage attendance. We work with school districts across the country to give families current information about their child's attendance, along with access to resources. And we also offer school teams professional learning opportunities to better understand attendance data and utilize evidence-based strategies to improve attendance. So in Pittsburgh Public Schools, we are partnering and have been for the last year, sending communications home to families, as well as offering just beginning in late October, 4 sessions to social workers and school counselor teams to really be able to support families with attendance and look at that attendance data.
That's fantastic. What would one of these letters or what does this communication look like, and what should families expect to see if they do get one of these letters?
Yeah, so our team takes a look at all of the attendance data and focuses in on students who've missed 5% or more days. So you talked a little bit about chronic absenteeism and kind of the challenge of, when you miss 1 or 2 days a month, the impacts that has on students. So we're looking at students who've missed, right away, as you said, that 5% threshold, students who are missing 1 or 2 days, and we start to send communications home throughout the year. So we're sending letters home every 4 to 6 weeks. Text messages are going out bi-weekly, and they're pretty simple. They include excused and unexcused absences. They're designed to give families information about their students' attendance. They don't require any action from the family. So they're different from a truancy notice, which, is often punitive, feels a little more, a little harsher, and is reliant on that legal system. These are just giving families information. And then they'll always be customized to the student. So they'll have the student's name in the communication. They include the number or percent of days the student has missed so far this year. And they're often drawing the connection between attending school and academic success. So really targeting, getting that information out about the importance of attending. And then the back of the letters also provide resources and tips that may be helpful to address some of the barriers to attendance. So in Pittsburgh, we're including housing instability resources, how to connect with your counselor, how to call your school with the phone number there. So just kind of removing any friction or any resistance to being able to access the resources that families need. The text messages are also two-way, so families can engage with a chat bot that provides relevant resources like links to transportation or food resources. So families have easy access to those resources. And then families can also connect with the family support team. There's a number at the bottom of the letter, and the number of the text messages are coming from that, where families can call in and talk to somebody to ask questions about the communications, about their child's attendance, or get access to more resources. So it's kind of an all-around support that we hope really frees up school sites to do all the great work that Danielle is doing with her team. So we take care of the print and mail so they can focus on those really great human connections.
That's fantastic. And in terms of like the national story, I mean, I know sometimes folks, I'm a parent, I worry about truancy, but like, why are we worried about more than just truancy, right? The difference between excused and unexcused. Why is that? I got the excuse and I sent the excuse in. Why am I getting a letter? What's the rationale for that? I mean, I think we talked about it a little bit, but from Everyday Lab's perspective, why focus on chronic absence rather than just truancy?
Yeah, the research tells us that just missing 1 or 2 days is impacting students' literacy by 3rd grade. So it's happening quick and early. We see a connection between chronic absence and dropping out of school, students less likely to enroll. Missing school, you're missing out on those human connections with your classmates and teachers. You're missing out on access to food, and then all of the great learning that you get to do. So we know that no matter your reason for missing, all of those things can contribute to, slides in success and access. So we really focus on chronic absence for those reasons. It's not just the unexcused absences.
Yeah. And I'm curious in terms of this first year. I mean, I know the results, but in terms of how do you think we're doing here in Pittsburgh after that first year, and how does that compare to other cities that you work with as the lead of district partnerships?
Yeah, so last year's program was a great success. 3 in 5 students who received the communications improved their attendance. We saw 1,600 students across the district move from being considered chronically absent to no longer chronically absent after receiving the communications. And we also found over 8,000 resources were provided to families via the family support team or chatbot. So I'd say all around we saw attendance improvement and access to resources that families wouldn't have received otherwise. So some great movement so far, and excited to be continuing the partnership to reach as many students as we can in Pittsburgh.
It's fantastic. What do you, what's the team's hope for the professional development that's being offered in October? How do you see that being used here, and how have you seen it used in other places to support school staff to leverage the data that you're looking at to really help get kids to school?
Yeah, when we look at attendance data, oftentimes we're just looking at, okay, what's our attendance rate? We often are looking at those truancy numbers. And oftentimes those numbers can really mask a chronic absence problem. And then when you start to look at the data, oftentimes you're like, okay, we can recognize that we have a problem here, right? We're seeing these high percentage in chronic absence. What do we do about it? What are the right interventions for the right student at the right time? And so the professional learning is really meant to help our our social workers and school counselors dig in on the data, look at individual students, notice patterns and trends, and be able to say, okay, here's a group of students that needs this universal intervention. Here's a group of students that are going to need really targeted interventions just for those individual students. And so really hoping that digging in on that data will just give information to the school sites, to the social workers and counselors, to be able to match the right intervention to the right student.
That's great. That's great. Danielle, in terms of this last year, how did the Everyday Labs notices going home? Did you hear about them, or your social worker at Arlington? Did you get any feedback on them? And then, another kind of follow-up question would be sort of how's Arlington engaging with families when you're noticing a student that's chronically absent kind of during the year, and kind of what are some things you're doing? So it's two questions there, but I wanted to link the two of you in terms of the work that's been happening.
Yes. So last year, we've had A+ schools come and do a lot of surveys with our parents during our events at the school. In addition to that, after school, when we have parents waiting on their children to come out, they were being engaged by A+ schools as well with the questionnaires, and to get a lot of feedback. And I think that being able to engage our families to get that information is so essential, so that we can know exactly what their needs are, what their transportation needs are, what their barriers are, and that helps us move forward and create more opportunities with solutions. And for the second part of the question, could you please repeat the second part?
Yeah, no, so just sort of, did you notice as the year went on, were folks kind of saying, hey, I got this letter from Everyday Labs, what is it about? And when you were talking about it with families, what did you say, and how did you help people understand, why they were getting this communication, which is, again, different, as Emily said, different from what they would have gotten as a truancy letter?
Yes, and we explained that, we want to be able to help our families, find out what the solutions are. And that is what this is for, so that we could put those resources in place to help them get their child to school every day. And so utilizing that information, if a parent we found us having trouble getting their child to school, we would connect them to those resources that we have within our stakeholders. For example, the Brashear van, if they needed an after-school program, if they needed help I've actually driven children home from school to make sure that, they got home safely. I've brought children to school on my way to work as well, just to make sure that whatever it was that they needed, they got what they needed by any means necessary. So utilizing that information, having parents come up and talk to us, and opening up that conversation helps us to really go in and find out what is truly needed in real time, and getting them those necessary resources.
Yeah, I mean, I want to just commend you, and I know this isn't, just Arlington, but again, as we've been doing this work, we hear constantly sort of how above and beyond staff like yourself go to meet the needs of children and families in our public schools here in Pittsburgh. So I just want to say thank you for picking kids up, for taking them home. I know that's, kind of above them, but beyond the call of duty, but we appreciate it, because I know it's what our, sometimes that's what our kids need. They just need that extra support. So I just want to say thank you for that. Emily, can you talk a little bit more about some, if there are, how are other districts that are, succeeding with either the Everyday Labs program, or now that they've sort of got that communication done, sort of when they take that next step to dig in a little bit more, where are you seeing your support free up time or free up resources to really support kids getting to school?
Yeah, great question. I think one place we see our communications come in handy is, as Danielle mentioned, just opening the line of communication up. Families are going to get these letters, they're going to get the text, and it's going to trigger, oh, what's going on with this? I want to understand more. Or, oh, I don't think my child was absent that day. So we're giving families information and opening the conversation up. So then I think giving districts more support there and how to have those conversations about attendance, and really encouraging the focus to not only be on those unexcused days, but also the excused days. And then also some of that root cause analysis. So one other thing that we'll provide for districts are resources where how to have a phone call home, what's a script that you can use. So when you're calling home, you know what to talk about and you know what to say around attendance. We have a barrier assessment. So Danielle mentioned trying to help uncover, what are the barriers that families are facing getting to school? Is it transportation? Or is it concern about how your hair looks in the morning or clean clothes? Those things that, may not be readily apparent to a teacher. So helping districts have those conversations with the barrier assessment, and just taking the conversation from, a traditional truancy conversation, which is more punitive, to a supportive conversation, giving families information and resources. So I think that's one way. And then the other is just that data piece. When districts are not spending time on the print and mail, they can start to focus on the data and really zeroing in on students and what their needs are.
That's great. Hey, Danielle, do you have any final words for our folks? I was gonna wrap up here. Emily, too. I just want to give people, I know we're getting close to our half hour that we had scheduled. So any final words, Danielle, from you? And then Emily, I'll give you a chance for a final word as well.
Just as Emily had said, she was talking about the resources that we provide. And I also am very grateful for a lot of the clothing donations, because that has helped a lot of our students come to school and feel confident as well. That was a very important donation that we had. We have a clothing closet here in our community schools room where students can come and get whatever they need whenever they need it. And we have some unique situations where we were able to gift a lot of students a good amount of clothing to make sure that they feel comfortable coming to school and feel good about coming to school. But all in all, as I stated earlier, it truly takes a village and great teamwork working together. And I'm just grateful for A+ schools. I am grateful for Everyday Labs. Thank you so much. And I am grateful for all of our community partners. And thank you for helping Pittsburgh Arlington and our students feel empowered and great.
Of course, we're happy to do it. We're learning so much in partnership with you, and we hope that those lessons learned can impact other schools across our district in a similar way. Emily, any final words from Everyday Labs perspective on this conversation?
No, I think Danielle kind of summed it up great there with accessing all those resources. It made me think more about attendance as a parent than as someone who works at Everyday Labs. I have 3 kids, and my oldest is starting to navigate elementary school, and it's hard to know what's normal about attendance. When my kid is sick, should I send him? I'm thinking about taking this family trip, and I'm wondering if I should do it on this day or that. Things like that, where you just start to have questions about attendance. Reach out to your school. I mean, Danielle has proved just the kinds of supports that are available, and just all the love that schools are really offering. So I think there's great opportunity and great relationships that can be started at the school sites to get the support that you need and start to understand, okay, what's normal when it comes to attendance, because I think that's something that our families are hungry for.
Yeah, that's such a great segue and way to end, right? So Attendance Works, I want to give them a big shout out. They have all of these great resources for parents. One of which they just came out with was around when do I send my child to school if they're sick, which I was reading over being oh, was I right or wrong to send my child to school on that day? So I just want to say again, thank you to Danielle Gill, Community Schools Site Manager at Pittsburgh Arlington. Thank you to Emily Cunningham, Director of District Partnerships at Everyday Labs. In the chat, there are links to wish lists from both Pittsburgh Arlington and Pittsburgh Perry. We're building wish lists for other schools as well. But right now, those are the two big ones. Please go donate right there. You today can make a difference in the life of a child. You've heard what a difference a coat and gloves can make for children. Having those resources there. So we want to support the school with that, and also with resources that are there to help support learning. The other thing you can do, give a call if you have a question. Everyday Labs is going to be sending out these nudges and texts via mail and text message. So you'll have an ability to talk to their resource folks. You can always call A+ Schools hotline, family hotline 24/7. It's 412-256-8536. If you need something.